All right. Welcome everybody to the September 2024 by-election town hall. We have 3 candidates here tonight and a 4th who unfortunately could not make it, including Amy McDonald for Graduate Senator, Claire Sharp for Arts Senator, and Alyssa Goodine for, what is it again? Education, yes. My apologies. So, of course, for our rules and regulations, we will be addressing you as your candidate and your first name. And, of course, to start off, we're going to have you give a little introductory address, just a minute or so, and we will then move into our question period, which will involve about 10 or so questions. We'll give you 3 minutes of response time each, and we'll give you about a 15-second warning before your time is up. Of course, after your questions are done, we're going to move on to rebuttals. You will each have 1 rebuttal. You can address any of the other candidates, say your thing, and then of course they'll have time to respond to you in turn. We'll also moderate this portion in the same manner as before. After that, we will move into the audience Q&A. Of course, the audience can direct any questions to any candidates. They'll be given about another 3 minutes to respond. Once again, we'll give you a 15-second warning before the end. And of course, you can make a final address at the very end of the session. So, to start off with our questions, we would like you to please introduce yourself, starting off with candidate Amy.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to be here tonight. My name is Amy McDonald, and my pronouns are she, her. Originally from Unamagi, I now reside in Nelligitchguniich, where I live with my wife, 2 children, 2 dogs, and a cockatiel. My connection to StFX spans over 2 decades. I first joined the university in 1998, finishing my first undergrad in 2002. Leaving to go west to work at the British Columbia Institute of Technology, and then returning to StFX in 2009. I came back to the institutional analysis office, and since 2021, I've been working in student life here at StFX as a gender and sexual diversity advisor, and I am running for the graduate student senator position. Thank you.
Very good. Candidate Claire.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Claire Sharp. I'm from PEI, and my major is political science. I live at Bishop's Hall this year for the 2nd year, and I'm working as the community engagement officer at Bishop's Hall this year, and I love it. My pronouns are she, her. I love music, art, reading, and my fun fact about myself is that I'm a legacy child.
Very good, thank you. Candidate Alyssa.
Hi everyone, my name's Alyssa. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from Moncton, New Brunswick. This is my 5th year here at StFX. I recently graduated in May with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and I'm now in my 1st year of the education program here. So I'm running to be an education student senator. My background has been a little bit with student life as both a community advisor and community educator, as well as sitting on various U committees such as the Equity Committee and Strategic Planning Committee.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to question 2. What is one quality that you possess that makes you stand out as a candidate? Candidate Amy.
I believe that one of my strongest qualities is my passion. I have passion for equity, for education, lifelong learning, liberation, and passion for authenticity. I want students to feel like they can live and exist here exactly as they want to be, and being supported in their education success and their personal success.
Very good, thank you. Candidate Claire.
I would say that my quality would be being supportive. I think that the best way to enjoy your time at StFX in the classroom is having a supportive classroom and supportive environment, and feeling like your building and your friends and the people in your program are not competition but supporting you through your journey at StFX. Just supporting, my goal is just to support you and fellow members here to make sure that we can all advocate for a successful year.
Thank you. Candidate Alyssa.
I would say my quality has been advocacy. I've served in several student leadership roles, being a CA in buildings such as McKinnon and McIsaac, serving as a CE for FX Hall and MSB Hall, providing educational programming to first and second year students. I've been passionate about mental health advocacy during my time here as a student, working with organizations like jack.org. I served as a communications member on their executive team and working with the peer support program here in Bloomfield, as well as sitting on different planning committees with the U, and working with students to help see the direction they want campus to go in and how I can best advocate for their needs.
Thank you. Now, would you please describe in detail what you intend to do if you are elected to your respective Senate position? In other words, what is your platform? We'll start off with candidate Alyssa.
So, if elected, I really want to be the bridge between the education students this year and the rest of campus. I do feel that at times we can be a bit of an isolated group over there in Xavier Hall. So really trying to connect us with the rest of the student body. One of my biggest platform goals, as I've kind of discussed, is providing advocacy for students and starting different education initiatives here on campus, such as cultural learning and mental health advocacy. So yeah, my goal is to use my previous experience and background to foster a strong connection between Bachelor of Education students and the rest of the community here.
Thank you very much. Candidate Claire.
So for me, my main goal of my platform as an arts student and being in my second year, I've gotten to experience my first full year and the difficulties it is being a first-year student. And luckily for myself, I was in a lot of really supportive and wonderful classrooms, but unfortunately I had to deal with a very unsupportive and harassing classroom, specifically from a professor. And so for me, my main concern is making sure that everybody feels that they're getting a good experience from their education, feeling supported through the arts program and not feeling that voicing their concerns about issues, they get diminished. I would want to make sure that people feel that they're represented and that the arts program has their back and not that their opinions don't matter based on serious issues. I know what it's like being in that, and if elected, I would fight for your right to have a good experience and advocate for you throughout it all.
Thank you. Candidate Amy.
So my graduate studies program is a Master of Adult Ed and Community Development, and that means a lot to me as an alumni, as a Xaverian, and as a student here. Having multiple roles in post-secondary, I have a really comprehensive understanding of administrative sides, academic sides, and student support functions. So I feel like I have good skills in order to effectively contribute to the Senate as the graduate student senator. I'm dedicated to fostering an inclusive and forward-thinking academic environment that meets the diverse needs of our students, faculty, and the broader community. That includes the university's objective into diversifying curriculum to ensure that multiple lenses are considered when developing course material and delivery methods. I'm committed to supporting the University Senate in its mission to uphold academic excellence and to promote equity and to navigate challenges. But I intend to be a very loud voice for not only students in the graduate studies programs, but for all students, and really work towards positive change, working collaboratively with everybody to uphold StFX to the standards that they preach. Graduate students are often outside of the normal student body because of the nature of our programs. A lot of it is done asynchronously. So in order to ensure that sense of belonging, I believe that if they can have a voice here and they can feel like they're contributing to the greater good of the Xaverian community as a whole, and I'm happy to be that voice for them, that they would feel more included here and hopefully contribute to the success of both themselves and the other students here.
Thank you. Now, if elected, what will you do to ensure that campus remains a safe and inclusive place for all students? We'll start this off with candidate Claire.
So I think a safe space really begins with the people there. We have a lot of amazing safe spaces on campus, and I think that going in with a mindset of being open-minded and willing to learn about other people and learn new experiences, I think that creating having a safe space and making sure people are aware of that is really important. So awareness of events, like events at Wellspring, Flourish at X, and different societies that you can join. I remember one of the first things people said to me when I came to StFX is that if you don't make friends here, it's because you're not trying to. And I really think that's true as I'm in my second year now, that there are so many things to do and there's so many wonderful people in safe spaces. And we have amazing resources and people that may or may not know about them. So I think that for me, being aware of the events that are happening, aware of the spaces we have, and being able to direct people to those if they're looking for a safe space or looking for ways to be involved in a safe and healthy way.
Thank you. Candidate Alyssa.
Yeah, some things I would do to promote safety and inclusivity here on campus would be to promote the diversity and inclusion services that we offer, such as the DEC and our advisors here on campus, promoting the safe spaces that have been dedicated to different campus groups, such as our new Black Student Success Center. I would also like to advocate for increased cultural competency training for both student staff as well as student athletes and student staff working in residence. So this could be training like positive space sessions and offering more sessions of ways of change and making those sessions more accessible. Also, having discussions with administration and holding them accountable for different safety concerns and collecting feedback from students and strengthening protocols and measures here on campus. So one big issue I've heard a lot about is that we need improved lighting here on campus in a lot of different areas. So advocating for that, as well as for emergency supports and more professional staff to be available to help students and residents, particularly during weekend daytime hours and weekday hours as well.
Thank you. Candidate Amy.
So I guess the first thing I want to address is that we can't ensure safety 100%. So the terminology safe and inclusive places, we can try our best, but people have self-autonomy, and that's not necessarily a good thing, especially when they may not have the education to support acting in the most equitable ways or the safest ways. So I like to use the term creating braver spaces, and consultation with fellow students allow me to understand exactly what they're experiencing and exactly what they need, where they feel unsafe and where they feel a decreased sense of belonging. So if I'm elected, I want to ensure that I address those needs of the students directly, ensuring that education is promoted throughout the institution for safety. That could include equity training, and that's not just for students, it's for also faculty and staff. Also implementing with the equity training that's already involved is allowing faculty and staff to also understand inclusive needs for accessible learning. Looking for encouraging the safe space to encourage authentic growth of an individual and have the individuals feel safe to be able to ask those questions that may be considered rude to some in a safe way without fear and without judgment, so that they have the opportunity to learn and to grow. Supporting education on gender-based violence and really helping people be better humans all around. As a part of creating the braver spaces, we also need to educate students, staff, and faculty on consequences. And we need to uphold those consequences from a policy perspective, independent of who they are. And we want to ensure, or I want to ensure, that that conduct is held in fair and equitable ways using restorative justice process, but also holding those who've caused harm accountable for their actions.
Thank you. Rounding out our general questions, how do you plan on forging connections with and representing marginalized groups on campus? We will start off with candidate Amy.
So it's always my intent to stay involved with student well-being at StFX, both as a student and professionally. It is not a secret that my position here at StFX allows me to create connections with a lot of students who feel that they are underrepresented here on campus. So as a student instead of professionally, I have been engaging with student leadership from the various diversity engagement offices, also the student society leaders, and really looking forward to working more with them on a student level, but also as a member of the Equity Advisory Committee, I'm able to understand the needs of those students and kind of meet them where they are. So when I have the opportunity to work with them, attend programs with them as a student, again, not as a staff member, I want to continue to foster my relationships with those people in those underrepresented groups on campus. And as a community member of two of those groups, I feel like I understand the need of that sense of belonging and support and the value that comes from creating those connections with other students.
Thank you. Candidate Claire.
So what I would do is, since my position at Bishop's Hall is very special because I'm not a CA, I'm a resident, but I also get to be engaged in the community of Bishop's Hall and making sure that it's a very good, trying to be a good place for people to be and make safe and inclusive events. So taking place in events, I think, is really important, just by being involved and seeing what's going on. Also, following things on social media, being aware of the events, what's happening and what's pertaining to these groups, and just being aware of the people in your building who may feel marginalized, people in the community who feel marginalized, and making sure that they feel that they have someone to talk to, that they can come and talk to you and not feel like uncomfortable, and to try and plan inclusive events on campus in our building that pertain to all groups of people and don't feel that certain people are, whether it's physically unable to participate, whether they feel that it's some sort of segregated event or something, just really feeling that everyone can belong, especially regarding like different houses and different traditions regarding our houses. I think that some people tend to get not included in those for specific reasons due to their, whether it's their identity or their race or just themselves as a person, and just trying to create events on campus and have places that those students can feel involved in, and kind of cutting down on those traditional events that really segregate certain people. And I think a way to really help make marginalized groups feel included is to be involved in the different groups, talking to people, whether you are part of that group or not, talking to people who are, to hear their concerns, to hear, this is what's going on, this is what's happening in my building, this is what's happening in my classroom, and taking that information and going to the people who you feel can best help them, and really just advocating for their right to feel that they belong and to feel that, they matter, they're included in these events, they're included at StFX. And I think just to try and forge an inclusivity in campus and just ensuring, good vibes all around, especially in the classroom as well. Different opinions and respecting that different people have different
15
cultures.
seconds. Thank you. All right, candidate Alyssa.
Thank you. I'm pretty passionate about doing my best to ensure that everyone feels like StFX is a place where they can belong, and a place where they can have their concerns addressed. I would want to have regular and open communication with different underrepresented groups, as well as with their advisors, to hear their concerns, as well as being visible and present at different community events here on campus. I like to think I'm a pretty approachable person and anyone can come talk to me about any concerns they have, but also I'd like to provide ways to maybe chat one-on-one or provide anonymous feedback outside of a group setting if concerns come up where someone feels uncomfortable maybe talking to me about it or talking to me about it publicly. Also, considering how proposed policies would affect different groups on campus and considering who would benefit from them and maybe who wouldn't. Advocate for funding and resources for these groups to be autonomous, and as well as my past experience as a CA in both the CE, I'm familiar with a lot of the designated supports that are available to different student groups as well. I'd say my biggest goal would be to really just collaborate, have open discussion with everyone on campus, and to help amplify groups that may feel marginalized, help amplify their voice in decision making here on campus.
Thank you. So that is the end of our general questions. I will be handing it over to Returning Officer Donovan for student engagement.
For the first question on student engagement, how do you intend to engage and communicate with the student body to understand their concerns and needs? We'll be starting with candidate Amy.
With the graduate studies program, as I had mentioned earlier, a lot of them are not physically here on campus. So being able to engage and communicate with them sometimes is a challenge because we rely solely on email or the internet or social media in order to do that. And given that some of them are in other countries and other time zones, that does create a challenge for the real-time response. But it's my goal to continue to foster those relationships that I've already developed and utilizing the graduate studies departments in order to reach the students so that they know how to get in touch with me as their representation on Senate to bring forward any concerns. However, I feel like I do engage best with folks face to face, so I would encourage those who are around to be able to advocate with me or to me for the needs that they have, and I believe that I'm a very open and approachable person, and I make sure that I put myself into the environments where students are, so whether it be at events or whether it be in certain places on campus, like in Bloomfield or in Keating, and allowing the students to know what my role here as a student is at the university in order to advocate for them. And because of my experience, a lot of students feel comfortable coming to me with a lot of needs and supports that they have. So continuing to engage with students at this level puts me in a position to hear their concerns honestly and openly and be able to advocate for them in the best way possible.
Thank you. Candidate Claire.
So I know for myself, whenever I've had to go and talk to somebody about concerns or issues on campus, I know it's so much easier when you're talking to someone with a familiar face, someone that you feel comfortable and that you know they're going to get the job done. And so I think that really just trying to be active on campus, talking to people, but also, like, I know for myself, just being in the hallways of Bishop's Hall, people will just come up to you and tell you stuff, and just listening, you really can find out a lot, not by also going out and reaching out to people, but just by having them come to you, by being a familiar face and a friend, listening, and also just people having it out there, like, you can contact me anytime, having a variety of ways, whether it's through more of an anonymous writing, or if it's through email, call, in person, I'm very willing and available to talk to people. And I think it ties back in again to advocating for, especially for marginalized groups, like just reaching out to the people who head those advisors and people who really know what's going on, so you can best influence change within the StFX campus to make sure that those concerns are being heard, specifically for groups that do feel marginalized.
Thank you. Candidate Alyssa?
I plan to be available by email as well as social media if any student wants to reach out. The good thing about the education program is we're fortunate to have a really small program and tight-knit community. So I will be available in between my classes, present in Xavier Hall to hear from education students and their concerns. I'm also around Bloomfield pretty regularly. So any student, if you see me around, I'm always happy to chat and have a discussion. And if elected, I'm also open, and I would want to dedicate office hours to meet with any students who have any concerns.
Thank you. Moving on to question 2. How do you plan to advocate for and confront issues raised by your constituents in your Senate position? Starting with candidate Alyssa.
One thing I would like to do is I would like to utilize social media and surveys to gather student opinion on issues and perhaps gather that data in an anonymous way. And to also regularly meet with students to discuss the relevant concerns that are happening here on campus. I would want to work closely with the education program executive to let them know about my position, what it is, and to bring forward any concerns they might have that come up from their meetings. These would be concerns from both first and second year students, so I believe the executive would be a good point of contact. I also work very closely with my professors in the program, and I would want to share what's happening within the Students Union and gather opinion from my constituents during class time and kind of keep them updated on the U's initiatives. And I plan to raise awareness about any new policies that are proposed, as well as update my constituents on the progress of any concerns or issues that they may have brought up to me.
Thank you. Candidate Claire?
Yeah, so I think that listening with a really open mind and understanding all of the different perspectives and the varying ways that this can affect different groups on campus and how it can improve and affect in different ways. Reflecting on the issue and the best way to approach it, really coming up with a good plan and a good way so that everyone can benefit from the decisions, and to be sure that we're respecting and thinking of everybody on campus, not just like myself or maybe the specific person that it may be affecting, but thinking about how this can affect everybody and just keeping that in mind, and really just communicating to figure out what's the best way to approach this, reaching out to people who have experience, reaching out to other people to hear different perspectives, different ideas. I think that communicating with people and gaining different knowledge is the best way to get a better perspective on things and to really fully find out what's the best way to approach this.
Thank you. Candidate Amy?
So advocating for and confronting issues can look a lot of different ways depending on the type of issue that's raised and the people that need to be involved. So critical reflection is the first part of that for me, is really hearing the needs specifically of the students, my constituents, but also looking at what's also available here at StFX as a whole from a student perspective. If the student were coming to me in the graduate student senator role and looking at the responsibilities that I have in that position, bringing those issues forward to either the Students Union executive or the board for further discussion and collaborative action planning to supporting their needs. but also being aware that the students are going to have different needs than the graduate students are going to have different needs than those on campus because of the nature of their programs. So really working with those two organizations in order to really support the graduate students in any issues raised that might be a little bit outside of the norm that would be experienced by the students who are physically on campus all of the time. With my employment here, I also have resources that I'm able to confront and advocate for issues from that lens as well. So it would be really important for me to know personally from what, I guess, path I'm going to be advocating on behalf of the students for, potentially leveraging both in order to support the students completely and being able to address the issues that are being felt and hopefully working collaboratively to solve those issues. But I also want to be very transparent in telling the people what I'm doing and the progress that's been made, and also reporting back on any changes or action that has been taken.
Thank you. We are now on to the last question of the student engagement section of the debate. This is a scenario. A student approaches you on election day and asks you why they should vote. They tell you they do not understand how a vote for you will impact their day-to-day campus experience. How would you respond to this concerned student? Starting with candidate Claire.
For someone to vote for me means that you'll have someone who is determined, is passionate, and is dedicated to making sure that you have the best experience you possibly can in your learning environment and on campus. I think that for myself, I wouldn't have known that I would have needed to use some of the resources I needed last year, dealing with some of the things I had unfortunately had to deal with due to a unsupportive classroom environment. And I think one of the main reasons why I decided to do this is to have that person there that I wish was there when I needed it, and just for students to know that you may not know when you need someone like me to talk to or to have someone like me in your corner, but I'm always here. And I will always try my very best to advocate for you to make sure that you have the best experience you can and that you don't have to deal with the stuff I had to deal with.
Thank you. Candidate Alyssa?
Yeah, I guess I would first say that I understand their concern, and sometimes it's hard to see the link between a vote and how it's going to affect you. And election apathy is, a real issue that lots of universities have to overcome. But I would say that their vote is their voice, and it's the best way to make themselves heard. And it does slowly but surely lead to some change here on campus. And I would remind them that I'm there to serve them and their interests, and that I want to hear from them and their ideas. And they're free to discuss with me anytime about how I could better their experience here at StFX. And I would also explain that I'd be there to advocate for several important issues that could affect that will affect your daily experience, like things like tuition fees, campus safety, and the mental health supports that are available here on campus, student housing, for example. So all those larger issues. Voting does matter for having a say on all those, and their vote gives me the platform to make their voices heard.
Thank you. Candidate Amy?
So if a student were to approach me and ask me this question, I think I would ask them a question back about what their experience actually is. I want to know what their day-to-day student experience is and what their collective experience is, and where they feel it falls short from being perfect or what they did expect. Once I can understand where their needs are, I'm able to provide them resources to support them, but I'm also able to explain to them how I can advocate for them and to whom in order to make their student experience and success more attainable here at StFX, and tell them that I'm there to advocate for them and listen to them and make sure that their voices are being heard by the people who make the decisions, whether it be around the Senate table or whether it be taking these specific issues to the Students Union, to the board, or to the university administration itself.
Thank you. That is the end of the student engagement section of the debate. We are now moving on to the questions specifically for the senators' candidates, done by Chief Returning Officer George.
Thank you. Okay, question one in the senator's candidate or senator's question. In what ways is the university doing well in relation to mental health support? In what areas could they improve? If elected, how would you advocate for these improvements? Starting with candidate Alyssa.
I've been very pleased with the direction the university has been going with regard to mental health support on this campus. Obviously, there's a lot more work to be done, but I was happy to see just this year the increase in the number of counselors available at the Health and Counseling Center and the start of same-day counseling appointments for students. Also initiatives that the university has been doing in recent years, such as the Bloomfield Hub Space, the Mental Health Week in January, and the different student-led organizations here on campus, such as the Peer Support Program and Jack.org, as well as the different mental health training and sessions that are offered, such as like the mindfulness sessions, and as well as the DEC Center here in Bloomfield. So there's lots of good change that has been made in the recent years. Where I think there's room for improvement is I would really advocate for increased mental health training for professors, and so they can better know the needs of students and increase their sensitivity, I guess, to the mental health issues that students face, and to advocate for more funding and resources to the student-led groups that are available here on campus, so that they have the ability to put on more initiatives and engage more students. There's different resources I'd like to promote, such as Jack.org's Be There certificate. It's a great free online resource that allows you to learn about kind of how to have a conversation with and how to help someone who's struggling. So I think those resources would be a good thing for all students to have here at StFX. I'd want to continue to advocate for diversifying the mental health staff and professionals who are available to students, the collection on mental health data, particularly for first-year students, but for all students. And lastly, I'd want to promote more mental health well-being in the curriculum. One thing I've noticed
15 seconds.
One thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of opportunity to develop well-being strategies into particularly first-year level courses.
Thank you. Candidate Claire.
I think that coming from a second-year perspective and having my first year when I came to StFX, I was really surprised at the resources they had for mental health. I mean, maybe it's just different from coming from high school, but I was pleasantly surprised with the variety of resources, such as professional workers like doctors, mental health intake nurses, and now with the same-day appointments. I think this is really great because it just makes things so much more available for when you really need them. And being in that situation where you need to talk to someone right away, a professional, you have that available. I think it's wonderful that we're able to have that now, but that doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. And I think that one thing I think really is just awareness. Like I didn't know till yesterday about the same-day appointment. My CA had told me, and I think that if more people knew about this and more people, I think, realize the fact that these services are available to you and they're free, and you just have to go online and sign up. I think that if people were a bit more aware, and I also think that planning activities within residence buildings revolving around mental health issues and how to safe ways to cope with stress, and especially during like midterms and exam season, it can be very stressful, as we know. And just having practicing good mental health within your building and on campus as well, I think is an improvement that we can do without kind of subtly, without people really realizing what they're doing and they're practicing. Yeah.
Thank you. Candidate Amy.
The university has made a few improvements with their mental health and access to mental health support over the last number of years. Increasing the FTE in health and counseling was certainly needed. Also bringing in culturally relevant mental health support to students of underrepresented groups. The introduction of the hub being safe spaces for people to socialize while having support from both peer support mentors and professional staff. Another area is the Canadian Campus Wellness Survey data that's been collected and reviewed by the administration, which allows them to know where they're falling short and where the needs are. So I believe being proactive in that is enabling them to provide those supports in a real-time way. Where they need to improve is definitely the communication of what services are available and how to access them. Email is definitely not it, and I'm not entirely sure what is it, but again, being able to communicate the how is really important. But also the safety of those services is, I know there's always concern that when accessing mental health services that it's going to potentially negatively affect them academically because they're going to be seen as, or that it's going to be attached to their academic records. So really ensuring that they know that that's not going to happen. More after-hours support on the campus. When people are gone from 9 to 5, that after-hours support is definitely needed to be there. And while we have access to the 24/7 helplines and the crisis lines and the suicide lines, we definitely need more staff on campus, student leaders on campus that can support those mental health needs. I'm a facilitator for Safe Talk and Assist, which is a Living Works program promoting suicide first aid and suicide intervention strategies. And being able to bring that onto the campus to support everybody is a goal of mine personally. And advocating for improvements that I'm suggesting is really taking it forward to the administration, Students Union, the board, but I can also advocate for those changes professionally. But as a student, I believe that if students knew what was available to them, and the power comes in numbers, so if there's things that they want and things that they need, it's much easier to advocate when everybody is wanting the same solution.
Thank you. Moving on to the second question. How do you support the student population with a learning disability? What can be done to ensure a more accessible learning environment? Starting off with candidate Claire.
I think that, like I've said with a lot of questions, is awareness for these programs. Resources such as the Tramble Center, the library, Student Success, being aware of these and knowing that there are people out here that want to help you and want to make your learning experience at the same equality as everybody else. And that I think also helping with stigma around needing, maybe it might be extra technological resources or learning assisted resources, not feeling shame or guilt for needing those, specifically revolving around professors. I've been in a lot of classes where professors will more or less shame students for having to use a computer or an iPad or some type of technological resource for their learning disability, and or just other types of tools where profs will be very reluctant to that. And I would advocate to help professors understand learning disabilities better and to recognize that these tools are meant to help and to help make the experience better, but also connecting people to the resources with the professionals that we have on campus would be the main goal.
Thank you. Candidate Amy.
As I had mentioned earlier, supporting course development and delivery with multiple lenses is a priority for me, and that includes a student population that struggles with both different learning abilities as well as being part of the neurodivergent community. It could include expanding the resources available at the Accessible Learning Center or the Tramble Center, supporting academic student success, and improvements through all those departments. But it's going to come from helping faculty members understand what it actually takes to make things accessible for those various needs, and that everybody's needs are quite different. And if we can provide them the support in order to create that more equitable environment from a learning and understanding perspective, they may be able to implement tools and strategies in their courses that would create equity in learning so that the material and the supports are accessible to all. We also need to ensure that psychoeducational assessments are readily available to students when needed. Access to the Tramble Center can sometimes be restricted to those assessments. Not only are they hard to come by because there are very few people who have the ability to do those assessments in real time, they are quite costly, and sometimes it's beyond the student's financial means to access those things. So if the university, I would hope to advocate for those psychoeducational supports to be available on site, where we have a practitioner here that could support students, or multiple practitioners here that could support students in that. And in addition to those psychoeducational assessments that would provide them the access to accessible learning materials, it also provides them access to grant funding that would support their learning through technological needs, or through tutoring, through note-taking, all those things that could come at a cost. So really making people aware that what can be done, and advocating to the university from the Students' Union perspective, but also from the administration perspective, of the needs of those students not being met. And we know that they're not being met based on the increase. I think the use of the Tramble Center has gone up over 300% in the last 4 years.
Thank you. Candidate Alyssa.
I would agree with the other candidates tonight that a big theme is communication. So I would advocate for promoting the resources and supports, such as the Tramble Center, early on over the summer and the beginning of the academic year, to ensure students have those supports in place earlier, and they're not scrambling before their first assessment or large paper. I would also want to check in with students and get feedback on their experience with these services, to ensure they're being adequately supported. I also, one concern I've heard from students who use the Tramble Center is, to my understanding right now, the fees associated with using the service are paid separately from the rest of the student fees and separate from student accounts. So I would want to kind of unify that and put that onto students' accounts with the rest of their fees, so there's no confusion or delay with students accessing the supports they need. I've also saw an opportunity for increased peer mentorship here on campus, so advocating for more peer tutoring services, and I see an opportunity for 4th and 3rd year students and undergraduate programs, or upper year students in all programs, to provide support for 1st and 2nd year students, and with things they need, such as notes, so I see a lot of opportunity for peer mentorship, and also with the changes that have been done with Moodle, for that platform to be regularly assessed in terms of accessibility for students.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it back to Aiden.
All right, we will now move into rebuttals. We will give each of you a chance to comment on something one of the other candidates have said. And of course, after you've said your piece, the other candidate will be able to respond in turn. We are going to, well, I suppose comments might be a better term. Just anything in response, anything you'd like to say, or even a question you might ask. We're going to start this off with candidate Alyssa. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I guess I would like to ask for the arts candidate. There's within the arts program, it's quite a diverse constituency you're serving, with a lot of different majors that fall underneath it. So I guess I just want to, ask different ways you plan to kind of engage students in such a large constituency.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think that that's a great question because it's very true. There are so many different people that fall into the arts umbrella, and it's wonderful because you get so many different perspectives and so many different people who have wonderful ideas. And I think the best way to deal with different concerns based on different programs would really just be talking to the people who are involved in those programs and who are directly involved in the issue, and talking to them and talking to different people around different issues, and it's not just arts, it's the arts side, it's so many different people who are part of it. And I think that just being open-minded, hearing different perspectives, and understanding how it affects different programs differently, and really trying to keep that in mind when making decisions, and to remember that there's a lot of different voices involved, and to just be aware of the vast group that is the arts department.
Thank you. All right, candidate Claire, do you have anything you'd like to comment on or ask a question about?
I guess more so just comment. I think that both of the wonderful people up here tonight have said great things, and if I was part of your thing, I would totally vote for you. So I think that you guys are great.
Very good, thank you. Candidate Amy?
Kind of similar to Claire is I'd like to commend the other candidates here for really putting thought and feeling into your responses, knowing that the student voice is important around the table, and having worked with students for so long, I appreciate the position that you're bringing here, and I know that you would take those issues and take your role very seriously in making sure that students have the best experience here.
Thank you. I commend your respect for each other. All right, we're going to move into an audience Q&A now. If anybody in the back has any questions, please feel free.
Yes, I'm going to ask a question. It's going to be directed at Claire. You're by far the youngest person to be applying for this, right? So that gives you kind of a unique view in terms of you're still growing in terms of your university education, and you're still growing in terms of the actual community, and you'll have, in a sense, you're still trying to figure out what the community looks like here, which in a sense is an advantage and a disadvantage, right? Because you still need to figure out where does the school kind of want everybody to be, and where do you want to go with the school? Mm-hmm. So how are you going to kind of navigate those challenges in terms of you don't exactly know what's going on fully yet, but that's also good, because that means you can create change and you can see things that people who have been here for quite a while may not be able to.
Yeah.
So how do you think you can do that?
Thank you for the question, Blake. Yes, I'm 18. I'm in my second year, and I think I do have a little bit of an advantage in the fact that I am a second year starting in this, so I have more time to see what's going on, try and make improvements, and also having that first year's perspective. Like, first year was hard, and anyone I talk to in their second year now says first year was a difficult time. And so I think having that very fresh memory of first year and knowing how that can affect somebody, your first year experience can really make or break the rest of your university experience. If you have a bad first year, you're not going to want to come back your next year, and we don't want people not coming back. We want people to feel comfortable and love coming to StFX. And also, I think I have a bit of an advantage. My entire family's gone to StFX, and so I've heard awesome stories my whole life about what a great school and what a great community it is, and how you'll see someone on the street with an X ring and you have to talk to them, and just the community. And so I think by having that advantage of my family being part of that community, the Zavarian community, and knowing what that's like, coming in here wanting to be part of that community, wanting to continually forging that community, I think is important. And it's great that I'm younger because I can continually forge that community throughout this year and the next 2 years as well.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Is there anything online? Any questions?
No, I don't see any.
Perfect.
Very good then. If there are no further questions, we're going to allow each candidate to give a closing remark, just about a minute or so, and we're going to start off with candidate Amy.
So, thank you for the questions this evening. I was happy to put thought forward into preparing my answers for them. I'm really passionate about this institution. I have always said I've bled blue and white, and that is the position I maintain. However, I do see need for improvement in places, and I have been advocating for change since I got back here in 2009, and I will continue to advocate for change that will both create a better educational and community environment for myself as a student, for my constituency, the students within the graduate studies programs, for all students here, but also for my children who
15
will be
seconds.
coming here next year. So when you said you were 18, I was like, oh gosh. So anyway, I just want to thank you for this, and I hope that my responses give you confidence in my abilities.
Thank you. Candidate Claire?
I just want to say thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I've wanted to come to this school my entire life. I applied only to here, and so I think my school spirit and my drive to be Xaverian is very much present, and I just want to forge a good community, especially on campus, but especially within the arts program, since we've got a lot of different people all across the realm of the arts, program. I want to make sure people feel supported and heard and advocated for, and to have a good experience at StFX in the classroom. You only get these 4+ years once, and you want to have a good time. So I want to make sure everyone has a good time in school.
Thank you. Candidate Alyssa?
Yeah. I'd like to thank both of the other candidates for critically engaging in the well thought out responses to the questions this evening. I've learned a lot from your responses as well, so thank you. I think that for my closing remark, I'd go back to the question on, I guess, why a vote matters and why you should vote. I think it's your voice, it's your opportunity to advocate for change and to have someone to step in a position and advocate for you. So I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to hopefully do that and to help solidify the connection between education students and the wider campus.
Thank you very much. That concludes our town hall debate. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to our wonderful candidates for participating, our audience here, ROs, Brendan Roberts, chair of the board, and of course everybody who's tuned in online. Thank you very much.